Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I've got Nick Sharples with me today, product specialist for TITLEIST. We're going to run through a golf ball fitting, but we're going to run through PROV V1X and the new AVX ball. But I'm going to just hand over to Nick now. He's going to talk through kind of what we're looking for from golf balls, talk a little bit about the golf balls, tell us what kind of shots we're going to go through, and at the end we're going to see if one of these is going to be my golf ball for this year.
Cool. So in the ball range themselves, we have this year PROV1X, PROV1, and a new launch that came out the 2nd July, AVX. So within the golf balls, a golf ball is the most important piece of equipment in your bag. It's the only thing that you're going to hit in every single golf shot. So making sure the ball's being utilised in the short game area, in the mid irons, short irons, longer irons, and off the tee is a massive area. So within a golf ball itself, there's three key areas that we look at. Or should I say three characteristics to a golf ball. That's the flight, the feel, and the spin. So the flight on any golf ball in the world, not necessarily ours, every golf ball in the world, is down to the dimple pattern. So the dimple pattern gives differences in flight. So within the PROV family range, PROV1X flies the highest. Okay. PROV1 relative to PROV1X will fly a little bit lower. AVX, with its changing dimple pattern, it will fly the lowest. Okay. So that's one thing to consider in a ball fitting. The next thing, in terms of feel and spin, that comes down to the core and cover materials. Okay. So when we kind of look at the word feel and maybe what people consider what compression and feel is, it's maybe a bit of a misconception, or some people's beliefs don't actually come down to what the golf balls do. So when we look at the golf balls, in terms of it, we'll talk about spin to start off with, is that all our balls, not just the PROV family and AVX, all the balls we make are designed for low spin off the tee. We want low spin off the tee because that's going to maximise your distance off the tee. Okay, so when we look at the PROV family, when we talk about V and X first, the first two layers of the golf balls they're identical. Okay, however, there's core differences that give differences in feel and spin rates. So just nipping into the feel aspect of the golf balls, PROV1X will feel the firmest, followed by PROV1, and AVX will feel the softest. Okay. So like I just mentioned then, all balls are low spin off the tee. A lot of people then kind of associate maybe softer golf balls spinning more than harder golf balls, and maybe harder golf balls going further in distance. That's the biggest myth in golf. Okay, compression isn't a measurement of spin, it's more a measurement of feel. Okay, so when we look at the balls in terms of what they're going to do with the irons and wedges, is that because the core differences between the PROV1 and the PROV1X, the X golf ball will actually spin more with your irons and wedges. Okay. With that in mind then, if we look at the three ball family, PROV1X will spin the most with your irons and wedges. AVX will spin the least with your irons and wedges. So the softest ball in this kind of ball family will spin the less. That's not because of the softness of the golf ball, it's down to the core and cover materials in the golf ball. So what we have in terms of a ball process is differences in feel, what people like, in terms of flight and spin characteristics. As a ball fitter and as a brand, we can't give you necessarily tons of distance between all the balls. However, the big thing with the golf ball is as soon as it lands on a green or any kind of surface, we lose control because the ball can roll further away from the hole. So if we can get the golf ball to stop up quicker near the hole, that's how we're going to take less putts and reduce the scores. So in terms of what we're going to look at today is how we go around kind of a ball fit with a consumer and maybe a tour pro as well. Within a kind of ball fitting itself, everyone kind of looks at if people haven't a ball fitting before. I mean, how would you go around, what would you see most consumers would think about in a golf ball? Where would they start? I
think most guys talk about off the tee. They want low spin because it's going to go further.
100%. So whether you're shooting 70, 85 or 100, you're only hitting 14 tee shots in a round of golf. So as I mentioned to you as well, all the balls are low spin. The only difference we can offer off the tee with the balls is differences in flight. So as consumer golfers and tour pros, 90% of their game is within the scoring shots. So the way that we focus in and around a ball fitting is that we always start in the short game area first and then work back. So kind of as we are here at the moment, we're going to hit some shots with PROV1X, with PROV1 and AVX, and then we're going to kind of work through things like 50-yard pitch shots, maybe some full wedge shots, even a big kind of area in terms of like longer iron as well, where maybe not many people think about a ball, what that could offer them, but maybe differences in what we all call peak height and landing angle, see where, if we can see differences in the ball performance in that aspect, and then kind of look at the tee a little bit, but like I say, that's going to be player preference on flight. So 3 characteristics: that flight, feel and spin, of kind of making a ball fit around what the player sees.
Okay, perfect.
Cool.
Right guys, so I don't know which ball's which. Nick's very kindly labelled these ball 1, ball 2 and ball 3. We're going to start off with hitting maybe a little 15-yard chip.
Yeah.
Then we're going to hit maybe a little, 30-40 yard pitch. Then we're going to work out onto the golf course, try and hit some full wedges, some short irons.
Short irons, maybe some longer shots.
Longer irons, and then back off the tee. So I'm going to try and give feedback on kind of how the ball feels, and then obviously how the ball flies, and we're going to take some numbers from quad just to see how the ball performs off the various clubs. So I'm using a 58-degree SM7. No pressure from Nick to use a Vokey wedge on this one, but we're going to start off just a couple of chip shots with each and see how the ball kind of feels. I think from what Nick was saying though, we're probably expecting performance to be fairly similar with these.
More kind of a feel aspect between the balls.
Okay, perfect. Quite as good the second one. Okay, so I'm going to load ball 2 into there. And I think what we're saying here is that it should just, the ball should just feel different on these shots more than anything.
Feel a little bit different now, yeah.
And Nick's not letting me in on which ball's which here, so we'll see how bad my feel is.
Sound any different there?
Maybe a little bit.
Okay.
Thought the first one for me maybe sounded a little bit clicky.
Okay.
That one maybe felt a little bit softer, but
okay.
Nick's probably going to be shaking his head here. Okay. The good news is I've carried them all the same distance. Let's go ball 3. So if I'm honest at the moment, I couldn't tell you which model was which that I've chipped there. But ball 3. And I thought that felt the softest.
Okay. Notice anything with the...
Thought the flight was a little higher.
Okay.
I would say that's possibly down to my strike.
Okay.
More than anything, but...
Anything about how the ball kind of reacted?
It looked like it landed a little softer, but again, I would say that could be maybe a slightly higher flight for me. But it'll be interesting to look at numbers. I was a little bit low off the face, but I thought that felt the softest out of the 3. So if we look at, we won't show too much about strike on those, but we'll have a look at numbers. So ball 1, see the launch angles, 29.3, 28, 29. Now, again, for me, I think technique-wise, probably the strikes were slightly differently on the face, but spin-wise, so a huge amount of spin on one of those, which I would say that would be a little out of the ordinary.
Okay.
Compared to those,
definitely,
you know, that seems
a little bit
very, very high. If I can get it chip shot spinning like that, I'll play that all the time. But yeah, I mean, for me there, we're seeing performance-wise, I think if that was more in line with where I'd expect,
similar.
They're all going to be fairly similar, aren't they?
They are,
but I thought probably the first one felt the hardest,
okay.
then softer, then softest.
Okay.
Okay then guys, so we've hit the chip shots on the chipping green at St Anne's Old Links. We're now out onto the 18th fairway. We're going to imagine that I wasn't able to reach in 2 today. So we've left a 50-yard pitch shot. So I'm going to try and make my little kind of 9 o'clock swing with this 58 degrees. Should give me round about 50. Same process though.
Yep.
Ball 1, ball 2, ball 3. We'll look at some numbers and I'll try and give you feedback on kind of how the ball feels. That's probably going to pitch a bit further.
So any kind of feedback from here as well in terms of like feel and flight?
I mean that really felt like that kind of really gripped on the club face. Probably went in a little flatter than I would maybe normally see, but again 58, I don't always play 58, I'm 56 or 60, but for today I wanted just something in the middle. But that felt nice. Maybe again a little clicky, which is probably what I felt with the chip shot.
Yeah.
And I thought my control was better there.
Yeah.
Definitely visually that grabbed nicely. So let's go ball 2. Okay, so ball 2. Quite impressed with ball 1 though, seemed to stop nice and quickly. I just left the club face a little bit open there. So that felt softer, but didn't seem to grip as much.
Okay.
Which I know you said softness and spin. That's a misconception that guys have. Pitch that a little far again. Yeah, certainly for me that doesn't. That felt a good strike, but again that didn't feel. It felt soft, but didn't look like it spun as much.
Yeah.
So let's pop up onto ball 3. That definitely feels the softest out of all of them.
Okay.
And that one certainly looked like it grabbed a little bit more when it landed.
Okay.
Certainly out of these first few shots, I would say ball 3 is the one I prefer kind of the feel of. Again, pitch that a little. Definitely, it looked a little higher. But let's look at the numbers between the 3 balls. So average carry 55, 55 and 53, so not too bad.
Okay, yeah.
So launch angle gradually got higher.
Okay.
Spin was very high on the first one.
Yeah, exactly.
So a bit like you were saying there, kind of as the ball got softer, it actually spun less.
Yeah.
So quite interesting for me. So that was speed, wasn't it, at the start? But sorry, 53, 55 and 52 carry.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean for me there, as the balls got softer,
we start to see difference in maybe that kind of launch and spun.
Launch differently and spun very differently.
Definitely.
So quite interesting for me. And certainly, even though maybe ball 3 has felt the best, I would probably say from a performance perspective, ball 1's actually performed best for me 100%. So far.
Kind of when we look at that flight, feel and spin preferences, is that if you think about performance base, dimple is flight, core and cover gives spin differences. A feel is a preference, whereas the other 2 are performance based. So it's great to sometimes have a nice soft feeling golf ball that feels nice, but is that necessarily going to give you the performance in the height and the spin?
Yeah, if it's not giving me what I need, that's not the right way to pick a ball, is it?
100%, yeah.
So we're going to go out for some longer shots now and kind of see if that pattern that I'm seeing with 1, 2 and 3 continues. Right then guys, so we're out on the driving range at St Anne's Old Links, so we can hit the shots off grass, and we're going to use TrackMan for the longer part of the game, because this is what Nick would normally use for his ball fittings. Again, we're going to go ball 1, 2 and 3. We're going to hit some full 7-irons, some full 4-irons and some drives, and kind of look at how the balls perform differently. Hopefully I can be pretty consistent my end of the bargain and hit it out the same part of the club. So we're going to start with 7-iron, then 4-iron, then driver. It's a solid one. Pretty much normal flight for me. We'll look at the numbers after I've hit all 6 shots. But if ball 1 does that every time, I'll just play ball 1 all the time. little bit out of the toe. But again, I'd be pretty happy with the trajectory on that. So switch on to ball 2.
Okay, good to go.
There's a little bit heely, so I would expect that might spin up a little bit more. Shot 2 with ball 2. A little bit pushy, but again, pretty solid strike. And then switch over onto ball 3. A little bit out of the toe, but again, I'd take that. One final one. Again, solid, if not absolutely flushed. So I think for me, quite tough to tell visually just because of the wind, but it'll be interesting to look at the numbers that TrackMan. Okay then guys, so some slight technical issues while I was out on the driving range with Nick. Didn't get the camera fully working while 7-iron and 4-iron was being hit. Didn't actually appreciate that when it was happening until I got home later that evening. But also didn't get the numbers off TrackMan for 7-iron. But I'm going to run through the numbers for 4-iron and driver, give you a bit of feedback between ball 1, 2 and 3. Then we're going to find out which ball was which. And we're going to see which ball out of Pro V1, Pro V1X and the new AVX is best suited to my game. Okay, so when we look at 4-iron, we can see ball 1, my ball speed was just under 128. Ball 2, nearly 130, and ball 3, 129. So fairly consistent on those. Backspin for a 4-iron was just very, very fractionally high with all of them. Probably saying, looking at that ball 1, slightly the highest. Looking at the launch angle being 10.3 though, maybe just a little lower on the strike. And certainly ball 2 gave the biggest total distance and the biggest carry at 186 and 198. So as we look at driver, club head speed, roughly about the same. Launch angles, again, just slightly different. So we're down to just very slightly different contact points on the club face. Ball speed, though, was the quickest with ball 1 at nearly 159. To be honest, ball 1 and 3, the spin was nice and low. And ball 2, the spin was just that little bit higher. But again, on that, for carry and total distance, that was ball 1 that performed the best. Right then, guys, so when we looked at the overall performances from kind of, certainly the numbers there with chipping, pitching, driver, 4-iron, certainly for me, overall, I felt that ball 1 probably slightly edged it. Ball 2 was probably the closest, but ball 3, as good as it performed in certain shots, certainly in those, that kind of pitch shot was really where it really let itself down for me. I'm not somebody who generates loads of spin on my pitch shots, so in order to get the ball stopping a bit quicker with ball 1 would be a massive advantage for me. Now, Nick, at the end, told me the order of the balls. We were looking at Pro V1X for ball 1, Pro V1 for ball 2, and the new AVX for ball 3. So as good as AVX is going to be for some golfers, certainly not for me. Surprisingly though, X was the best one, and I probably thought maybe Pro V1 would be best, but having tested that, Pro V1X came out best for me. Nick said it a couple of times in the video, you know, the golf ball's the only piece of equipment that you use on every single shot. And it is important, if you can get fitted for golf ball, take the advantage, get fitted, and try and play with the same ball as often as you can to give you that consistency in performance. So I want to take a second just to thank Nick and Titleist for Nick being allowed to come down, do some ball testing with me. I think a big misconception a lot of guys make, particularly with the premium balls with Titleist, is that a lot of people think you have to have a certain club head speed to be able to actually see the benefit of the ball. And it's not the case at all. The cores are designed very, very differently. And like Nick was saying, you know, softness doesn't necessarily mean more spin. So every swing speed, there'll be one of those balls that performs best for you and gives you the best chance to play your ultimate shots and score as well as you can. So guys, apologies for the voice, a little bit croaky at the moment. Appreciate you taking the time to watch my videos. As always, subscribe to my channel if you don't already. Follow me on all my social media platforms, all under Ali Taylor Golf. Hopefully catch up with some of you guys down here soon. Stay in contact.